Hey y'all, you know what time it is? Woo! My bookmark went flying. Get into it! Get into it! Yes! Hey y'all, what's going on? I'm back after a needed break. Got one of my favorite treasures by me. So beautiful. Shout out to the one who bought me that teacup. You know who you are. So special. But hey y'all, how's it going? I'm back with Storytime with Chris. I needed a much needed break in my life. And I'm glad to be back. You know, hold on one second. I don't own the music that is playing in the background. I want to talk to the children real quick. Listening. Children. And that also includes teenagers in this conversation. When you see, I'm gonna take my glasses off because they're filthy as usual. Let me talk to y'all real quick. So, well, this is more so what's for the adults and the children. Okay, so today I was working at Ellie's today. And I was the first server. Typically, I get there at 7:45, which is my clock-in time. And I'm there until my manager tells me it's good for me to go home. Well after the second server has settled themselves in. One thing that I noticed today that was a running trend, and it wasn't everybody, but it was like at least 3 different tables that were flagging me down in the midst of me taking care of, I'd say about 9 to 8 tables by myself. Of course, I had help from my manager and from my barista who were on it. You know, if I need water ran to the table, something needs to be bussed or pre-bussed, I'm pre-bussing, which is a term, children, to refer to clearing the table of dirty dishes. If you see that a guest has finished their meal or finished their drink, they would normally put it to the side, and then that would give you the notification to pick it up. But what I noticed today is that there are a lot of people flagging me down. Hey, are you doing okay? This seems to be a lot. And honestly, because I love my job and I love what I do, it doesn't feel like work. As hard of a concept that seems to be with people, I love my job. I legitimately love my job, and it's not a chore for me to be at work. So, one particular person was like, hey, you seem really understaffed. Are y'all not able to hire people? And I'm gonna answer this. No, we are not understaffed at Ellie's. No, we do not need any more staff. And no, we are all of us, baristas, servers, bartenders, hosts, we are all capable and efficient at our job at Ellie's. Let me clear that up. So what I really wanted to say to the adults that may be watching, if you, before you flag somebody down to ask a question, or, oh, can you get me this? Oh, I need more butter, or I need more syrup. Take the time to gauge the room and pay attention to whoever happens to be serving you, because you may not know that that person may be the only one on the floor. And so all I'm asking for the adults in the room, please take extra careful time to pay attention to your surroundings and realize that you're not the only table being served. There are other people that this person has to take care of. There are other things that they have to cash people out. They have to run food. They have to make sure the food is specified to your specifications and made correctly. Any additions, add-ons you want to do, that they have to do that. And I just ask, basically what I'm asking is to be more considerate, because shout out to the kids. Kids, y'all do an excellent job of being polite and mannerable all the time because you were raised right, and y'all know better. I guess that helps with being in school, with raising your hand if you need something. But yeah, shout out to all of the kids who are very supportive today, who are very patient, who are very polite, asked questions at the right time. I had one kid was like, hey, I wanted to ask you something when you have time. And so that to me, honestly, is a gift. It's a gift that a lot of us take for granted. Children are very impressionable. but they are good. They are the purity of what we as adults should strive to be polite, to be kind, to be mannerable. I understand as adults we get a bit jaded and lose sight of what makes life better, if that makes sense. Like, it's okay to be nice to people, even if you don't know them. It's okay to be considerate of other people's feelings, regardless of if you have a friendship with that person or not. So, shout out to the children for being polite and, respectful and being considerate of other people, because I was busy today, but I wasn't overwhelmed by any means. And when I say busy, I mean that as much as I love to chit chat with some of my regular customers, I don't have time for that. I have to make sure that I am efficiently and adequately moving with a sense of urgency to make sure that I'm able to handle all guests' needs, not just one or two people, but all guests' needs. In addition to the team that I work with, because like I always say, nothing of what I do at Ellie's, or any job for that matter, would be possible without the team that I have. I'm sorry I'm fiddling with my hair, y'all. I'm supposed to get it done tonight, which it's not bad. My locks are far from bad, because I probably could go another week, but I'm trying something different this time, so we will soon see. But yeah, shout out to the kids. Adults, just be considerate and be mindful of your surroundings, and be mindful that some people, and yes, there are those situations where restaurants or, retail spots are low staff. But at the same time, that should give you an excuse to be mean-spirited to somebody or be impatient. Because if you know that that's happening, then one would think that you would have the good taste to grow a little bit more patience with people, if you know that information, if you know for a fact that they're low staff. But typically, to answer some people's questions that they had for me earlier, in the morning, we get a steady crowd, but typically we're not busy unless it's a holiday, unless it's a teacher's work day, or like today, the schools were closed to do COVID vaccinations, which is really cool. Two of my friends have a daughter who got vaccinated. Shout out to her. Not gonna mention her name because, people are crazy out here. But that would be the only reason why we would be super busy and overwhelmed. And if push comes to shove, if I really needed the help, I could definitely ask for it. I have an excellent barista and friend, Abby, who is not just an excellent bartender barista. She's also a really great server. And she goes and hustles and has a sense of urgency and does what needs to be done. If I really needed the help, I definitely have backup. There's no question. So just be mindful, be considerate of other people, and just be a little bit kinder in your approach. That's all I ask. With that being said, we are back with the Redwall series. Okay, let's see how many more chapters we got till the end of part 2. I think it's 20. Oh, okay, it's 20. Okay. Oh, okay. So we're on 15, and then after tonight, we'll be on 17 tomorrow. So there's 23 chapters in part 2. So if we can get through at least 3 chapters tomorrow night, which I can see that as a possibility, we could be quite caught up by... Yeah, because if we read 3 chapters on Saturday, which is tomorrow, and then read 3 more on Sunday, we'll be good to go. And then we'll be in part 3, and then by that point, we'll just breeze through it. And then I have a novel I want to read for Christmas, but I'm not going to announce what that is yet, because it's a bit of a decision-making process, because I have at least 3 different options I want to go with. So we'll see. All right, chapter 15. The bodies of Sela and Chicken Hound, the 2 traitor foxes, lay limp in the ditch that ran alongside the road. The rats of Clooney's horde had executed them with spears and tossed them there. Sela lay still, her once bright cutting eyes glazed over in death. Ooh, oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Pardon me. Ooh, I'm so sorry. But gradually, Chicken Hound began to twitch and to groan. He was still alive. The fox's entire body was afire with pain. Twice they had stabbed him, once in the back leg and again right through the loose skin and fur at the scruff of his neck. Chicken Hound had screamed and fallen into the ditch. Helped by the feet of the rat executioners, he had immediately blacked out. Sela's carcass lay on top of her son's body in the shallow, muddy water. The rats were satisfied that both foxes were dead, and if they were not, well, who was going to climb down there all those stinging nettles into the slippering ooze to find out? Nettles are like brown little spur. Well, up here in America, we call them like spike spurs or cotton spurs. Anyway, like they're little brown, stingy little plants. They just stick to your socks and clothes, and you gotta pull them off. They can be painful depending on how thorny they are. They hurled clods of earth at the prone forms in the ditch and stood watching them for a while. When flies began to gather on the foxes, the rodents lost interest and wandered off. Chicken Hound regained his senses. He lay quite still, with Sela's body draped across him. When he was satisfied that the coast was clear, he struggled painfully clear of the grisly carcass that had once been his mother. Old fool, she would never have been in this mess if she'd let a much younger and smarter fox handle things. With a total lack of sorrow for his deceased parent, Chicken Hound began figuring out his next move. He would have to lie low in this stinking ditch until darkness fell. Even though he was severely hurt, the irony of the situation caused the young fox a silent snigger. It was he, not his mother, who had outwitted Clooney. Now he would soon be free with the revised plans of the attack upon Redwall Abbey. Surely that would be worth something. As soon as it was dark, Chicken Hound made his move. He was only too glad to do so. Flies, wasps, worms, and all manner of crawlies had been thoroughly investigating him all afternoon. Slowly and carefully he rolled about in the thick mud until it formed a poultice, cooling the wounds in his leg and neck, preventing further blood loss. Under the cover of night he wobbled unsteadily to his feet, limping away up the bed of the ditch towards Redwall. The going was painfully slow, but Chicken Hound counseled himself on the long journey by boosting his own ego. Maybe a silly bunch of rats could put one over on Sela. Ha! She was old and had lost a lot of her guile. Not like me. They hadn't reckoned with a smart, intelligent young fox like I am. I'll show them. Revenge will be mine. They'll see what it's like to be up against an expert in espionage. Espionage, children, is a fancy word to suggest spying, when you spy on someone or when you gather information in secret. Like, for example, for my 90s kids, Carmen Sandiego was in the work of espionage. Totally Spies is a work of espionage. Spy Kids is a work of espionage. Hours later, within sight of the Abbey walls, Chicken Hound discovered a slope that was not too steep and started to pull himself up out of the ditch. He gasped and cried in agony as he climbed. Using some creepers and an overhanging bush, the young fox finally made it to the road. Completely exhausted, he lay in the dust. How long had he been dragging his wounded body along the ditch bed, he could not tell. In his present weakened condition, he could not go a step further, but fell into a state halfway between unconsciousness and sleep. Silent Sam was Cornflower's bodyguard on her nightly round of the ramparts. He marched solemnly by her side as she gave out mugs of hot soup to the grateful sentries that watched through the night hours. Ambrose Spike watched hungrily as she poured him a steaming mug of the delicious soup. The hedgehog thanked her profusely, hoping that there might be seconds after the others had been served.
What a thoughtful little body you are, Miss Cornflower. I always say there's nothing like some good homemade vegetable soup to keep the life in my old spines. It's a fair night, but mark you, it gets a bit chilly twixt dark and dawn, my dear.
While the hedgehog and the mouse were chatting, Silent Sam was never still for a second. He trotted about on the parapet, always sucking his paw, leaping from stone to stone, fighting off imaginary foes with his tiny dagger. First, Cornflower thought he was play-acting as usual. The baby squirrel stood on top of the gatehouse threshold, pointing down to the road with his knife. He beckoned Cornwall and Ambrose with his well-sucked paw to come and see something. The young field mouse wagged her ladle. "Put that dagger away and stop your climbing, you little scamp!" Silent Sam remained as he was, like a well-trained pointer dog.
Perhaps he's trying to tell us somewhat, miss,"
grunted Ambrose. He waddled over to the parapet and looked down to where Sam pointed.
"Well, bless me soul, Miss Cornflower. I do believe that our little soldier has spotted an object. There's a creature laying down there, but I'm blowed if it's a fish or fowl. There's so much mud and dust plastered on it," whispered the hedgehog. "You stay put, missy. I'll go and fetch help."
Cornflower and Silent Sam stood looking down from the parapet. Ambrose, aided by Jess Squirrel and Formo, ventured out into the road to investigate. At their back stood a dozen stout mice, guarding the gatehouse door under the command of Basil Staghair. "Steady in the ranks there," said the hare quietly. "Keep your eyes peeled for signs of ambush, and no talking now." Chickenhound was lugged inside as rapidly as possible. Unable to contain their curiosity, the defenders questioned the limp, half-awake fox as they carried him across the abbey grounds. "Did your friends the rats do this? I suppose it's sanctuary you want now."
"Or wouldn't you be about a laying in yon road?"
Chickenhound's head flopped from one side as he was borne along. He would only say one thing. "The abbot. I must see the abbot. Keep that badger away from me or you'll learn nothing." Basil dismissed the rear guard and caught up with Ambrose. "I say, you best get that rascal straight to the jolly old abbot. Let him make his statement before he pegs out, don't you know." Chickenhound was hauled into the abbey building and laid out on a bench. Abbot Mortimer shuffled up in his nightshirt, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He inspected the fox's wounds with a critical, practiced look and spoke dispassionately. "Well, fox, what do you want from us? No doubt Clooney, your master, has sent you here to spy." Chickenhound shook his head in weak denial. "Please, I must have some water." Jess Squirrel picked up the water jug but withheld it. "Tell the Father Abbot what you want, sly one," she rasped sternly. The fox reached out feebly for the water jug. Much to the abbot's dismay, Jess still held it at a distance. "Speak first! You'll get water when we get information," she insisted. The sight of an injured animal distressed the abbot, but he decided wisely to leave matters to Jess. The squirrel knew what she was doing. "Clooney's horde did this to me," croaked the fox. "My mother, Seela. They killed her. I know of Clooney's new plans. Care for me and I will tell you all." Chickenhound fainted clean away. "Ha! I certainly wouldn't waste good time and medicine on this one," said Jess coldly. Ambrose Spike scratched his stomach speculatively.
"True, Jess, neither would I. But mayhap he is vital information, otherwise why would he drag himself here in this state?"
The abbot inspected the fox's neck wound beneath the muddied fur. "What Ambrose says makes sense. Would you lift the wretched creature up and carry him to the sick bay, please?" Cornflower and Silent Sam watched the fox being carried away. Sam stood in front of her, his dagger drawn to protect them both. He ruffled his pointed ears. "I'm all right, Sam," she said gently. "The fox cannot hurt us. Thank you for protecting me." The little squirrel sheathed his knife and resumed paw-sucking. Winifred and Abbot Mortimer sat by the bed in the sick bay. They kept up their vigil until Chickenhound regained consciousness. The fox whimpered, his gaze around at the homely little room. "Ah! My neck! What is this place? Where am I?" he groaned. Winifred pushed the patient gently back onto the pillows and held a bowl of water to the cracked, dry lips. "Please drink this, and lie still," she ordered. Chickenhound slurped and gulped greedily at the water as the abbot enlightened him. "You are in the infirmary at Redwall Abbey. As yet I do not know the full extent of your injuries. When you have rested, my friends will cleanse you and dress your wounds." "Excuse me." Chickenhound could hardly believe his ears. "You mean I could stay?" But I haven't told you of the new plans yet. The abbot wiped driblets of water from his patient's chin. Listen to me, my son. We would not turn you away from our gatehouse unless you were an enemy that meant us harm. All creatures are cared for here at Redwall Abbey, and it is my task to care for the sick and injured. You are my responsibility. Whether or not you choose to give information is a matter that your own heart must deal with. Meanwhile, you will receive our hospitality and sanctuary until you are fully recovered. Chicken Howl lay thinking about what the kindly old mouse had said. Suddenly he had blurted out, "The battering ram is only a decoy. Clooney means to use it as a diversion so that you can tunnel underneath your abbey walls. I don't know exactly where he plans to start digging, but I do know that he will come at you from under the ground." The abbot shook his head reprovingly as Winifred lowered the lamp flame and drew the curtains. "Clooney is surely the spawn of darkness. He will stop at nothing, my son. Now I realize this, and I believe what you tell me is true. But why did you crawl all the way to Redwall with this information, almost at the cost of your life?" Chickahow did his best to look sorrowful and outraged as he lied. "Because they killed old Seela, sir. She was my mother, and I will not rest until justice is done to her murderers." The abbot patted the young fox's paw. "Thank you for entrusting your confidence in us, young one. Close your eyes now and try to get some sleep." When the abbot had departed, Chickenhound snuggled his filthy body down against the clean white sheets. He felt a little better already, well enough to have a quiet snigger. This mouse was as stupid as Seela had been. Let the mice fight the rats and the rats fight the mice. What did he care? Redwall must be a veritable treasure house to a clever young fox. Chapter 16. Dunwing was the widowed mother of Warbeak. She was also sister to the mighty King Bull Sparrow. When her daughter was shot down by the arrow, she had given her up as dead. Now she was back safe and sound. She stroked and scolded her at the same time with relief. When she could get a chirp in edgewise, Warbeak related the strange story to her mother in the rapid Sparrow dialect. As she was doing this, Matthias lay pinned to the floor by the claws of many fierce Sparrow warriors. As far as he could tell, the place was one enormous loft. This was the court of King Bull Sparrow, whose wrath seemed about to descend upon him. The sparrows lived higgledy-piggledy here in one great untidy tribe. The roof above met in the shape of an upturned V, thus making the court a long triangular structure. Under the eaves at either edge were countless scruffy-looking nests, all of which appeared to be filled to overflowing with shrieking baby sparrows. At one end, the loft was blocked off by roofing slates and old nesting materials. This was the king's own private chamber. Matthias estimated that it was probably underneath where the weather vane was situated. King Bull Sparrow was not a bird to be trifled with. He noticed the young mouse's evident interest in his surroundings and quickly diverted his attention with a savage kick at the helpless figure. "What a mouse worm want in court of king?" he snapped. Matthias, realizing that this was no time for idle chit-chat, promptly shouted out in a loud courtly manner, "O king! I come to return one of your brave young warriors." This statement caused an immediate hullabaloo, but Bull Sparrow flapped his wings once and quiet descended. He cocked his head to one side, assessing this bold young intruder. "You lie, mouseworm! Not help Sparrow! Mouse enemy!" he shrieked. "King Bull Sparrow say, kill the enemy! Kill it!" Instantly, Matthias found himself fighting for his life. The Sparrow soldiers piled in on him, jabbering, clawing, pecking. He managed to get a paw free and struck out left and right, dealing hefty blows to several of the sparrows. Matthias realized that he would soon be overwhelmed as more sparrows pressed in on him, urged by the mad exhortations of their king. As Matthias battled to free his other paw, he felt himself enveloped by two pairs of wings. Warbeak and Dunwing were attempting to shelter him. The mother sparrow was crying out, "No, Killy! Mouse good! Save my egg, Sparrow!" The king was not convinced. "Mouse enemy! Gotta make dead!" King Bull Sparrow had no fledglings of his own. Warbeak, who was his favorite niece, called out to her uncle, appealing for mercy. No, King Bull! Not killing Matthias Mouse. Him save Warbeak. Give Sparrow word to Mouse that you know Killy." The king sprang in among his warriors, scattering them like chaff. They cowered before him as he shouted out a new edict. "Full worms, stop! King, say no killy mouse! We have Sparrow word of my sister's egg chick!" The Sparrow warriors backed off. Matthias picked himself up. Luckily, he had not come to much harm. He dusted his habit off. "Whew, thank you once again, Warbeak. My friend, I owe you my life." The king issued orders to 2 Sparrow warriors. "Battlehawk, Windplume, get a bag. Find out what mouse carry." Matthias stood firm as the haversack was pulled from his back. The 2 warriors could not figure out how to open it. They tore at the material with beak and claw until it gave way. The contents scattered upon the floor. Matthias stood respectfully to one side as the king rummaged through his meager possessions. King Bull Sparrow drank some water from the canteen. He spat it out. "No worms, only mouse food," he commented. Warbeak sighed wistfully. She looked longingly on as her uncle found the package of candied chestnuts and ripped it open. Bull Sparrow dubiously sampled one. His face lit up with pleasure. "This good food for King Sparrow. Not good for mouseworm. Me keep." He tucked and candied the chestnuts under his wing, then picked up the collar and lead and beckoned to Matthias. "Mouseworm, come here, you lucky king let her live." The young mouse approached the sparrow with trepidation, not wanting to antagonize the moody, dangerous bird. The Sparrow King buckled the collar tightly around Matthias's neck. Scarcely leaving him room to breathe, he attached the lead and laughed out loud. Dutifully, the other sparrows laughed with him. Matthias felt his blood boil. He tried to contain his rising temper. The court of the Sparrow King was no place to have tantrums. Mentally, he promised himself that he would never again use a collar on any living creature. The indignity was unspeakable. Which goes to show that that lesson is still real in true life. Bull Sparrow handed the lead to Warbeak. Turning to his subjects, he chuckled insanely at Matthias. "Ha ha ha! King Bull Sparrow Spare Mouse! How you like him for a pet, my niece? Mouse, you obey my sister and her egg chick. Funny, huh?" All the sparrows laughed long and hard, vying with each other to show the most merriment. The king was completely unpredictable tyrant. When he made a joke, it was always funny. Warbeak gave the lead a tug and whispered to her friend, "Matthias, you see Warbeak and mother not make laugh. Sorry." The young captive winked at his warder. He was beginning to hatch a plan. "Don't worry, my friend. At least I'm alive." Warbeak handed the lead to her mother. "This Dunwing, she mother. Good sparrow, not hurt mouse, see?" Dunwing gave the lead a light pull. She gave Matthias a smile and a nod. He decided that he liked Warbeak's mother. The king issued orders to Warbeak and Dunwing. "You give mouse word only, no wander, no stray. Give plenty work. Much kick. Like this!" Bull Sparrow raised a kick at Matthias, who dodged nimbly and started to dance and sing with a silly expression on his face. The king stood with his head cocked to one side, amazed at the performance of this strange mouse. Matthias pranced comically about, improvising a song as he went. "Up higher than before, I'm near the roof indeed. The king gave me a collar, his sister holds the lead." Round and round he skipped, repeating the verse over and over. Bull Sparrow flapped his wings and laughed hysterically. "Look, Battlehawk, see, Windplume, mouse won't be hurting head brain. He crazy." Obediently, everybody laughed with the mad monarch. After a while, the sparrows drifted off. Some to their nests, others to hunt worms. A chosen few went with the king to play Three Feathers, a popular sparrow gambling game of which Bull Sparrow was very fond. Dunwing and her daughter led the dancing mouse off to their nest at the rear of the court under the farthest eaves. Despite his outwardly untidy appearance, the nest was neat and cozy on the inside. Warbeak had gathered Matthias's gear together. Repacking it into the torn haversack, she returned it to her mouse friend, eyeing him in an apprehensive manner. "Matthias be sick in the head?" she inquired. The young mouse lay back gratefully in Dunwing's nest and smiled reassuringly at them both. "Not at all. I'm as sane as you are. However, if I act as if I'm mad, then maybe your king and his warriors will not regard me as a threat. Perhaps they will leave me alone and forget about me." Dunwing looked up from the meal she was preparing. Her eyes were serious. "Matthias Mouse do right thing," she said. "Bull Sparrow is wicked, bad temper. Sometimes Dunwing think Bull Sparrow mad. Best he thinks you no harm, Mouse." Matthias bowed deferentially to her. "Thank you, Dunwing. You're a very brave sparrow. You put yourself and Warbeak in great peril, saving me as you did." Dunwing served them both some food. Thankfully, Matthias noted that she refrained from putting worms and dead insects on his portion. Mother Sparrow watched him with soft, intelligent eyes. The mouse was about the same age as her daughter. "Matthias saved my Warbeak," she said. "We have no sparrow warrior to look after us. Warbeak brave like father was. Now father, he dead. I learned to stand up for us till Warbeak grow into great warriors some day." The hours slipped by as the three conversed, and Matthias learned much of the sparrow customs and way of life. Dunwing, being the king's sister, was of royal blood. Her husband had been killed the previous spring in the battle with some starlings. He had saved the life of the king, whereupon Bull Sparrow had vowed to care for her and her daughter, but he had instantly forgotten his promises, leaving the pair to fend for themselves. Only in moments of urgency would Dunwing remind him of his vow, knowing that Bull Sparrow was a dangerous despot. So normally, Dunwing maintained a diplomatic silence in his presence. Sometimes Bull Sparrow would retire to his private chamber. He would remain in there brooding for days, suddenly emerging to fire his warriors with grandiose schemes and wild ideas. No one would dare to disobey him, even though half an hour later he had forgotten his previous foolhardy notions and wandered off to hunt worms. Later he would return to find that his plans had not been carried out. In a furious squabble of accusation and recrimination, he would demote officers and promote the most unlikely soldiers from the ranks. Next day he had forgotten it all again and was hatching more crazy plans. Matthias was constantly amazed at the mode of life in the sparrow court. The sparrows showed no kindness or civility to one another, often fighting savagely amongst themselves on the slightest pretext. Warriors and even fledglings joined in. The injuries they inflicted upon each other were appalling. Sparrow folk knew nothing of the firemaker's art. By day the court was illuminated by a sun that streamed in through the cracked and broken slates and slated up through the eaves. All food was eaten undercooked, worms and small insects providing the main diet. The sparrow did not discriminate between different species of insects. All came under the general heading of worm. Thus, a sparrow might make a meal of a butterfly or a grasshopper and refer to it as worm feed. Worm, also, used to denote an enemy or a coward or anything alien to the sparrow. Fresh flowers and tender shoots of vegetation were used to supplement the worm diet. Also berries and whatever fruit a sparrow could carry in flight. Matthias was grateful for this. He abhorred the idea of eating live worms or dead insects. There was no strict routine of chores ever carried out. Apart from parents feeding fledglings, everything was left undone until tomorrow, which meant it never was done. Why put off tomorrow what you can do today? The evidence of this lay all about the court. Dirt, dust, filth, and general chaos prevailed. Matthias gradually found that once he could keep good pace with the speedy delivery of sparrow language, it was relatively simple. Some of the sparrow chattered with such rapidity that Matthias was sure that they could not understand themselves. Rapidity comes from the word rapid, which means fast, quickly, speedily. So they're talking very, 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 very fast. Which I've been told I talk very, 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 very fast. Matthias was not sure whether Warbeak knew of his mission to bring back Martin's sword. Certainly Dunwing did not. The young mouse had not a good look around most of the court, but the sword was not to be seen. Matthias reasoned that it must be in the one place he had not yet explored, the private chamber of the king. He thought long and hard about how he might obtain access to the royal apartment. He did not want to cause trouble for his friends, nor did he want them to suspect what he had came for. Oh, excuse me, y'all, sorry. And supposing he ever did regain the sword, the next problem would be how to take it safely back down to the floor of the abbey and his own kind. Matthias figured that he had been in this new surroundings for a night and a day. Towards the evening of that day, he was sitting outside the nest, repairing his torn haversack and taking stock of his personal effects. Each time a sparrow passed by, he would grin vacantly and strike up a song. No one bothered to take much heed of him. Warbeak flew in from a lone worm hunt. She stood watching Matthias. "Me hunt worms," she chirped. "Bring dandelions for Matthias. Mouse like eat flowers." Matthias replied in sparrow language. "Warbeak good hunter. House mouse like flower. Make good worm food. Where be Dunwing, mother?" Warbeak pointed to the king's chamber. "Dunwing get bull sparrow worm food ready. King have no wife to make food." Matthias acted unconcerned. He pulled at the collar to loosen it. "Collar hurt, mouse neck," he grinned. Warbeak shrugged sympathetically. "King say you wear no can take off. Me sorry." Matthias continued sorting through his belongings. He came across an unopened package. What a stroke of luck! It was candied chestnuts. Hastily he slipped them into the haversack, hiding the nuts from Warbeak. Under normal circumstances, he would gladly have given them to his friend, but this was different. Matthias needed them as bait. They continued gossiping until Dunwing returned. After a decent interval, the young mouse spoke to her. "You go to King's room all lot of time?" Dunwing nodded. "Me only sparrow King Bull let into there," she laughed. "He lazy sparrow, not make own worm food." Matthias shared her laughter. "Betcha King not know how to make own worm food," he chuckled. "What you think, Dunwing? Matthias found the gift for King?" The sparrow mother looked up sharply. "What mouse mean, gift?" Matthias drew close and whispered conspiratorially. "You remember how King Bull like mouse candy nuts? Me find more. You take me. We give nuts to King." Dunwing looked doubtful. "What for mouse want to give nuts to King?" Matthias spread his paws as if stating the obvious. "So King let mouse free. Want to go back to mouse home." Matthias held his breath and watched Dunwing. Finally, her face softened. She smiled sympathetically. "All right, Matthias, we try. Not do much harm, but remember, not make Bull Sparrow bad temper. He killy sure." With an inward sigh of relief, Matthias swept up the packet of nuts. "Thank you, Sparrow Mother," he said. "Mouse not make trouble for you. Nuts make King happy, you see." With Matthias trailing behind her on his lead, Dunwing tapped on the slates which formed King Bull Sparrow's wall. An irate voice came from within. "Fly away, Sparrow! King want to sleep!" Dunwing realized that he had chosen a bad moment. Nevertheless, she persisted, this time tapping harder. "Let in King, brother. It Dunwing and Crazy Mouseworm. Got a gift for great King." A sleepy head poked around the door opening. Bull Sparrow blinked owlishly at them and yawned in their faces. "Better be portin', Majesty, no like to be woke," he grumbled. As they entered the room, Matthias skipped about and sang his ditty. Whipping out the package, he selected a nut and popped it straight into the open beak of the astonished ruler. Mouse wouldn't find more candy nuts for big King Sparrow." Matthias giggled. "Fetch here, quick! Maybe Mouse King give all the nuts. King let a mouse go home free." Ooh, excuse me. Got the hiccups. Pardon me. Matthias capered about. He went down on one knee, offering the nuts. Bull Sparrow snatched the parcel. Hoggishly, he stuffed far more of the nuts into his beak than he could cope with. Closing his eyes in ecstasy, he gobbled furiously. Pieces of nut falling from his beak littered his breast feathers. Matthias's eyes roved about the chamber, searching. It was nothing special as sparrow habitations went. A stray palisade, some butterfly wings stuck to the wall by way of decoration. In one corner there was a huge overstuffed old chair. How it got there would forever remain a mystery. Matthias's attention was held by something that protruded out of the back of the chair. It was an old-fashioned looking object, made from black leather with lots of silver trimming identical to the belt he was wearing. The scabbard of Martin's sword! Surely the sword must be somewhere close by. Matthias wished that he could see around the back of the chair to confirm his discovery. but he had to bring himself back to the issue at hand. King Bull Sparrow crammed the last candied chestnuts into his beak and chomped with evident enjoyment. Dunwing attempted to press for justice. "King eat gift. Now mouse go free?" The king held out a grasping claw. "More! Mouseworm got more candy gift for majesty?" Matthias remained kneeling. He appealed to the gluttonous ruler. "Oh, king, mouse have got no more candy nuts. Give all to great majesty. Now you let mouse go home free," he said hopefully. Bull Sparrow pecked nut morsels from his feathers, his eyes gleaming craftily. "Ah! Now king give Sparrow word. I say if Mouseworm give more candy nuts, then go free, but must give lot." The king spread his wings wide apart. "This many lot!" The young mouse bowed his head. "But majesty, me got no more nut." Unexpectedly, Bull Sparrow's mood changed for the worse. He crumbled the empty dockleaf packet and hurled it into Matthias's face. "Mouseworm, get more! More, you hear?" His eyes shone madly as the feathered hackles rose from his neck. "King not argue with crazy Mouseworm. You get gone now, plenty quick or me killy. Go now, majesty sleep." Sensing that the king had become dangerous, Dunwing did not hesitate. Roughly, she dragged the mouse by the lead from the chamber. Matthias spluttered with uncontrollable rage. "Dunwing, how you let a stupid oaf be king of Sparrow?" he choked. The mother sparrow hushed soothingly and dragged Matthias off to the safety of her nest. Warbeak had gone off hunting again. Dunwing sat down and tried to reason with the angry young mouse. "Matthias not let King Bull hear say him stupid oaf. You be dead worm bait much soon." Matthias opened his mouth to protest. The sparrow silenced him with an upraised wing. "All birds know that King Bull Sparrow mighty fighter. Him save Sparrow try many time from enemy. He sometime lazy, sometime bad-tempered, but not stupid. Bull Sparrow sly like fox, only pretend to be stupid, just like Matthias." Dunwing had guessed that Matthias had gone to the king's chamber for other reasons than to gain his freedom. This was a very wise mother bird. He decided to pull all his cards on the table. "Dunwing, listen! I want to tell you a story," he said. "It's all about the mice who live in the abbey beneath us, and of one mouse in particular called Martin the Warrior." The sparrow listened intently as the young mouse unfolded the story of Redwall Abbey and the part that he was playing in his hour of need. When Matthias had finished his tale, Dunwing saw the truth of it in his open face. She drew close and said quietly, "Matthias, Dunwing knew. First day you came here, I see belt you wear. It all same as thing behind chair in king's room." "But why?" Matthias interjected. Again, Dunwing silenced him. "Young mouse, sit still," she said. "Now let me tell you a story. Many time ago, before my mother was egg, king named Bloodfeather. He steal sword from North Point. Sword make Sparrow folk proud, brave fighters, strong egg chicks. Make worm food to eat. Sword hang in court of Sparrow. Bloodfeather die. Who know now? Bull Sparrow became king. My mother Greytail tell me this, for he die. Bull Sparrow wear warrior sword. Case be too heavy. Leave case behind in room back a chair. Carry sword in claw feet. Kill bull he much show off. Dig worm with sword. My husband go longer with him. One day they hunt in moss flower woods. Giant worm come, one with poison teeth. All a time say, Asmodeus, like that. Bull Sparrow drop big sword. Even he scared of poison teeth. Giant worm curled round sword handle. Bull Sparrow he ordered my husband Greytail get sword back. Greytail tried, but worm bit with poison teeth. He hurt bad, but fly back to court with Bull Sparrow. They leave sword in moss flower with giant worm. My husband die. Bull Sparrow say hurt in starling flight. Not true. Greytail tell me all for he die. Warbeak still egg. Not know how father die." Matthias watched sympathetically as Dunwing fought back her tears. Gently he patted the widowed sparrow. "Greytail be mighty warrior to face poison teeth alone. You glad Warbeak be his egg chick? Dunwing smiled through her tears. Matthias be good mouse. There followed an embarrassed silence. Matthias spoke half aloud. So it seems my quest has been in vain. But what of the scabbard? Scabbard mean sword case? Dunwing inquired. Matthias nodded. Me tell about sword case, Dunwing said bitterly. King Bullsparrow be frightened to tell her. We tell the rest of Sparrow that he lose sword. Huh, he not know, Greytail told me. But I watch King. Dunwing know. Bullsparrow still pretend sword in case. That way he stay king. If I tell her, he kill me in Warbeak, this I know. Someday Warbeak my egg chick be queen. She have royal blood. Then Sparrow folk be better, be happy. Bulla Sparrow rule for now. Ha, lose heart, lose sword. No good crazy bird Bull Sparrow. That night as he settled down to sleep in Dunwing's nest, Matthias had a good deal to reflect upon. So King Bull had lost the sword to a giant worm with poisoned teeth. Matthias knew the description fitted only one thing. A snake. He's a cold-hearted snake. Look into his eyes. Cold-hearted snake. Yes, shout out to Paula Abdul. Poison primarily meant it was an adder. He had never seen an adder nor any other type of snake. At Redwall he had learned of snakes from the tale of others. They spoke of the adder as if they were a reptile that was half legend, half nightmare. It was said that even the Father Abbot himself would flatly refuse to treat a snake, no matter how bad its condition might be. Luckily, there had never been cause to. There had never been reports of an adder in the area of Mossflower. That was why most creatures tended to treat it as a mythical reptile. But wise ones like Constance, the Abbot, and old Methuselah assured everyone that the adder was cold, deadly fact. They said that in all the world there was nothing more feared. The strong coils, hypnotic eyes, and poisoned fangs. Matthias shuddered. It sounded even more fearsome than Clooney the Scourge. How could a mere mouse take the sword from this adder that Dunwing had described? The one had said, Asmodeus. Matthias tried to put it from his mind. Gradually, sleep overtook him. You come quick, Mouseworm. King want to see you. Rough Claws seized Matthias, dragging him from the nest, only half awake. It was the two Sparrow warriors, Battlehawk and Windplume. They lugged Matthias off without further explanation, tugging cruelly on his lead. The last things he saw before he was pulled off into the darkness of the court were the pale, worried faces of Dunwing and Warbeak. He shouted to reassure them. Don't worry, I'll be all right. Take care of yourselves. Battlehawk hit Matthias in the face with a stiff, bony wing. Mouseworm, shut beak or me killy. Not before I see your king, you won't, the young mouse retorted. Battlehawk aimed to kick at him, but Windplume deflected it. Leave Mouse alone. You killy him, king killy us. Windplume grinned at Matthias. Mouse cheeky, but brave like Sparrow warrior. King Bull Sparrow had finished napping. Something was disturbing him about the captive mouse. He had been too busy guzzling candied chestnuts to let it bother him, but now he was wide awake. It hit him like a ton of bricks. The mouseworm's belt. What had taken Dunwing a single glance to recognize had finally dawned on the king. Matthias's belt was the same as the sword case behind his own chair. A broken piece of mirror reflecting the moonlight was the only illumination in the king's chamber. He dismissed his two warriors to wait outside. The king of the Sparrow folk sat staring at the young mouse in defiance. Silence stood as Matthias bravely stood his ground, not knowing what to expect. Bull Sparrow stood up. He strutted about in front of Matthias, then around behind him. Matthias felt his belt gripped from behind by strong claws. The crazed king whispered close to his ear. Where Mouseworm get belt? Matthias swallowed hard. He tried to act casual. Belt? Oh, you mean this belt? Mouse always have belt for many long time, not knowing where me get. Thump. Matthias hit the floor as the king shoved him fiercely in the back. Mouse lie! King Bull not worm fool! Where you get? Tell! Tell! He shouted madly. The Sparrow pulled at the belt. Matthias knew he was facing death with the insane ruler in one of his lunatic rages. He must think fast. "No got more candy nuts?" the young mouse cried. "Please, Majesty, give Mouseworm no more candy nuts. Me give great king this belt, then he let mouse go free home." Matthias' plea had the desired effect upon the mad king. He sat in the big chair, his eyes glinting cunningly. "Sparrow law say king must kill a mouseworm, but me good Majesty. No kill a mouse. Give belt to king." Matthias unbuckled the belt and handed it over. King Bull fondled it, then fastened it on himself. As he admired the belt strutting in front of the broken mirror, the sparrow spoke in a normal voice. "Nice good belt. Mouse know of great sword." Instantly, Matthias was on his guard. One wrong word might spell death for Dunwing and Warbeak. He must affect ignorance to allay the king's suspicions. "Oh, Majesty, that's good belt. Make king look fine, like mighty warrior. Not look so good on mouse." Bull Sparrow appeared flattered. He pruned himself, then asked the question again, this time in a coaxing tone. "Surely Matthias know of great sword." In spite of his dangerous predicament, Matthias inwardly amused at the king's use of his name. Slumping to the floor, he sat with his head between his paws, the picture of dejected innocence. "Oh, mighty king, must not have any more candy nuts. Not know about sword thing. Not even have belt now. Me die if not soon go free. Please let a poor mouseworm go home." Matthias' show of pathos seemed to cheer the king. He tucked his wingtips into the belt that he had fooled the mouseworm into giving him. Ha! He had eaten all the mouse's nuts, too. Feeling no end of a fine bird, he gave a sharp whistle that brought his two warriors on the double. There we go. "Look at this mouseworm," he scoffed. "He not happy that I spare him. You take mouse back to my sister Dunwing. Tell her king say take care of mouseworm. He give me good gifts. Candy nut, belt. Maybe mouse find more gift for good Majesty who let live. Take way now. Must get more sleep. Go!" As Matthias was dragged off once more, he pleaded to cry out in distress. This caused Bull Sparrow much amusement. He waved a wing in farewell, calling out the prisoner. "Get a good sleep, mouseworm. Think a way to get more gift from Majesty." The two warriors and a nearby fledgling who was half awake laughed obediently with their king. Matthias thanked his lucky stars that he had once more come out alive. Had he had refused to give the belt, he would surely have died. Anyway, he reflected, it was only a temporary loan, as he planned on stealing the scabbard from Bull Sparrow. Why not the belt to go with it? And that, my dear friends, is where we will end for tonight. Thank you all for those who have joined me for this. I hope you're enjoying me reading Brian Jake's masterpiece. The Redwall series is really great. I just, for me, as I read it, like, not reading out loud because I'm just reading it in my mind, in my head, it's a lot faster. These books are very lengthy. And all the subsequent books after them are like that. If you all want to continue to read the Redwall series, please just comment below. Just say yes, continue on to the next book after we finish this one. Which technically the next book would be Matameo. But then there is a book that comes directly after that, which is Mossflower, which is technically a prequel to the Redwall series, but is also a sequel to another prequel, which is Martin the Warrior, which is technically, in the chronological order of the Redwall series, the first book. It's Martin the Warrior, then there's Mossflower, and then there's Redwall, and then there's Matameo, and then Marielle of Redwall, and then the subsequent books after. And then there's even more books before Martin became a warrior. The story's about his father, Luke the Bellmaker. So, yeah, y'all. I'm glad y'all enjoyed this. I'll see you next time. Peace, love, and hair grease, y'all. Stay safe out there and be good to each other.